everybody.
Good
Happy
morning.
Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you. And let's see. Slap just a tad, sweetie pie. There you go. There you go. Happy Mother's Day from the Sawyers.
Hello out there. Good morning.
Yeah, I hope you're having a good Sunday morning. It's rainy Sunday morning here in the Carolinas, just a little bit, but it's kind of cool. It's my kind of weather. I love it because it's cool and everything's kind of quiet. I like it like that. Like it like that. Please let me know if you can hear and see me and my husband clearly. Welcome to Cornerstone, and let us know if you're having any problems hearing us or seeing us. I hope you're not. Hope you're not. I thought I took that thing down and I didn't, did I? Looked right at it. There we go. There we go. I want to put this up. Let's see. Jeremiah 29 and 11. I want to repeat that. I'm going to move this out of the way. Can you hear and see me? Thank you, Jill. Thank you, darling. Appreciate it. Jill is here. Happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day to you, Yvette. Happy Mother's Day to Brother Charles Blue's wife. Happy Mother's Day to Burn and Diaquilin.
Whole crew there this morning.
Brother Kessler, I texted you. You must not ever look at your texts. Anyway, I got a question for you when you get a chance to give me a call back. Hey, my sister, my brother-in-law, had a wonderful time yesterday.
Sure did.
With my family.
Enjoyed it. Sure
we
did.
We decided to go out to eat together to celebrate our Mother's Day. And it was really nice. We went to Olive Garden. It was amazing. We even got in.
Yeah.
With all of the...
we did. We made it, didn't we? Didn't take as long as we thought it was going to be.
I know.
Almost after we hit the door.
It was a miracle how we got in because all of the graduations.
It was crowded, wasn't it?
And yeah, all of the graduations and things. Yeah. And hey, Deb, I got you. Deb sent me a picture saying Happy Mother's Day this morning. Happy Mother's Day to you, honey pie. And then there is Sandra. Hey, Sandra and Marcine.
Marcine is here. Okay.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to you guys. Yeah. It was a good time yesterday. And it was so interesting because when we got there, it was jam-packed.
It was.
People were waiting. I mean, they were all over the place. And we went in, and they had another party that had made a reservation. And I said, well, that's not us. It was somebody by the name of Xavier. I said, oh, that's not us. And then so she put our name on the list, and she asked me how many people, and I said, well, I think it's about 4 couples of us. And she put it on there, and it wasn't 30 minutes. They were calling our name, huh?
That's right. Sure.
I don't even think it was 30 minutes.
Said it would be 45 minutes before we could get in.
Yeah. So we got in there, and then when we got in, it was a private dining area. It was
it was right on the mark.
Just for us. So I was just really had a good time with that. And it was always fun to see the family and hang out with them. And thank all of you guys who sent me a Happy Mother's Day text and all of that today. And I hope you're going to be having a good one too. Let's see. You got something good on your plate today?
Yeah. But you go ahead with your regular.
Yeah. Format. Well, I don't have I'm not going to do a meditation or affirmation today, but I want you to type this in. I'm going to type it in, and I want you to type it in as well. Let me move this banner out of the way so I can type this in. I want you to type this in. Let's see. Do I want to do it like that? I want to do it like a comment. I'm going to do it like a comment. Okay. Type this in: vibrational repetition. I want you to type that in. Vibrational repetition. That was your bottle popping.
Good
His
gracious.
plastic bottle just popped. Vibrational repetition. This is going to be on Facebook and YouTube. Type this in, vibrational repetition. For the past week, good morning, John Greason. He's in the house. Hey, John Greason. Happy Mother's Day to your wife, too. Uh, for the past week, uh, Miss Pearl sent me a video last week, and it was about energy and vibration. I didn't watch all of it, but ever since she sent me that text about that YouTube video, I have been running into the word of energy vibration. There've been so many different ways it's presented itself to me. And just this morning, well, last night, I think I may have slept with my eyes open all night because it felt like I didn't sleep at all. Um, and so I woke my eyes I just actually opened my eyes this morning and I just popped up. It was about 2:30 and I got out of bed because I knew I wasn't going to sleep. Got up, came downstairs, and I started to read a book by Dr. David Hawkins. And I also started reading some other things that I had read before, something I read to you guys on uh, Tuesday night. And happy Mother's Day, Phyllis. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you all. She's saying happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Um, yes, vibrational repetition. And when I got up and I was sitting in there, I started to read, and all of a sudden it began to talk about vibrational frequencies. And it was interesting because it's a and I might be able to find it, but I didn't want to read a whole lot of it. He was talking about when you have when you have had that awakening experience, and some of us we might say we haven't had an awakening experience, even though if you're listening to us, you must have had, or you must be in that inner journey, that mystical journey, I should say. And so you'll find yourself sometimes oscillating back and forth from moments of peace and back into uh, from moments of peace or periods of peace to periods of suffering. I'll say it like that. So it's like a back and forth, and I'm learning that that is a stage that most of us go through once you've had that glimpse of who you are, and once you come into the understanding of the truth about yourself and about God, the divine intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, source energy, whatever. So in that, I've had the question. I no longer question how to become, uh, how to be, or I don't question anything about trying to be enlightened, or I don't question whether I am awake or not, but I do have questions regarding the vacillation back and forth. Is there a stopping of that? Or is that the norm? Is that the way it's supposed to be? Is not supposed to be, but is that the usual way that things are in this? And so what I've come to is, and forgive me, my mind is a little slow because I've been sleepy. What I've come to is that most of us have that back and forth feeling because of the vibrations that we encounter or the vibrations that we emit. And that vibration that we emit and those that we encounter from people that we interact with, sometimes people can cause your vibration to shift if they bring frustration or anger or something to that effect. And then you have to find your way back to that vibration where there's no suffering. So vibrational frequency repetition is, I find, one spiritual discipline that I stick with every day. Now, I've heard this before and I've read this before from other spiritual teachers and gurus or whatever, that if you meditate and you do it long enough, consistently, you will find yourself in a enlightenment. You will inevitably become enlightened. It will catapult you into it. But meditation is not the only spiritual discipline that can be done. There are other ways to do it. So, in saying that, whatever your spiritual discipline is, if it's done repetitively, it ultimately and will lead you into less of that back and forth, from pain to bliss, from peace to suffering. It'll lessen that, and the reason why is because it's like we were watching some videos yesterday about the Grand Canyon, not Grand Canyon in the United States, but one in, I think it was China.
China, yeah, it is. It's the largest Grand Canyon known on the map on Earth.
And it's one that, and we can't remember the name of it, but it's one that changes colors with different seasons.
Yeah, yeah.
My point in saying that is, and they showed all of these different mountains and I mean, really beautiful places that all over this earth. When there were canyons formed like that, there were areas that were originally underwater.
Yeah, it was.
And you can see where the water was up at a certain level and then it would subside and it would go down on more, and you see the lines, the ridges where the water was.
Yes, water lines cut into.
Now, my thing is this: water is not hard. It's a very soft, fluid, flexible substance.
We have under the house a machine, and some of you heard it, called a water softener.
Yeah.
The reason why we have a water softener and they've made it in the finite physical world is because chemicals in the water,
minerals,
make the water give out a definition of hard, which distinguishes hard water from salt water. Salt water is when that is removed. So there are places we found out where there is pure water with no additives or no, it's just pretty water, just real water.
Well, yes, that's true. In fact, distilled water is water that has no minerals in it. It's been stripped.
But it has to go through process.
Right. But my point is, those lines that you see in the Grand Canyon where the water was, how did that water make that line? As soft as it is.
Yeah.
But I've heard you say this: if you have a drop of water beat on something
on cement
enough times, it will
actually imprint. It will
cause
imprint itself
a hole.
There are weighty waters and weightless waters.
Yes, even though it's very soft and it doesn't appear to be doing anything, the vibrational repetition of that dropping, constantly dropping, begins to change the shape of that it's dropping onto.
Okay.
That's what vibrational repetition is. So your spiritual discipline, whether for you it's been praying in tongues for years, going in the closet, praying in tongues. It has been a repetitive.
They call it praying in tongues now is simplified. Is it like baby cooing? You have certain things that you're trying to express through these feelings like a baby, but you have not found a way to translate it.
Now for you, that's been your vibrational repetition.
I didn't know how when I was a little boy. I didn't know how to say things or the child. But now, as I've gotten up, I've established a communication. This is what praying and cooing is.
So now yours may be, I don't know. For me, it's usually sitting, contemplation, and
some call it meditation,
reading and then contemplating. Reading, contemplating. Sometimes I just sit. I don't read or anything. I just sit and contemplate. Sometimes I simply sit still. Sometimes it's mindfulness. Mostly it's for me, it's been my spiritual discipline has been mindfulness. So my point is, if it's done repetitively, it's taking you from lower vibrations to the vibration that causes you to remain stable. And but it has to be done repetitively, like that rock, like that water falls on that rock. It has to be repetitive enough that the frequency becomes your set point.
Okay, here's what you're saying about the water, the ridges and places in this Grand Canyon. These are called water lines.
Yes, that's what they are.
Yeah, they're water lines. Water lines. Now, what we're talking about when you translate the mystery of those water lines into explanation, sin, or you might say the definition of sin, is misplaced identity, which means misplaced identity in this dimension has left in our soul area of feeling water lines. These ridges is what you call being separated. It separates itself and it leaves a mark.
Yeah.
There's a mark on everybody in this dimension of finite mindness that leaves bitterness, hurt, pain, disappointment. It leaves its imprint on it, and actually it becomes a PTSD, a pattern.
Yes, it's a vibration.
Yeah,
a vibrational frequency that has been repetitive.
And actually, that's what the definition of what it means to the fall of man or sin. Separation leaves those marks after you go so far into enlightenment. You begin to see those places where you was injured or the actual being here left marks.
Right.
The crucifixion and resurrection of the Jesus body left marks in his body, such as the nail prints and the scars on his back and in his feet and around his head.
Now, hang in there with me for a moment.
Okay, I got you.
I'm going somewhere with this because, Jesus had a vibrational repetition. They knew where to find him because that's where he always went. And it was something he did all the time.
And it left?
And it was to solidify or keep that set point.
Indication.
Yes. And when he realized he was...
That's indication.
When he realized he was going to have to go to the cross, if the story is true, he went through a dark night of the soul. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
A dark night of the soul where he felt like God had forsaken him. And he was afraid of going through what he knew he was going to have to
face. In other words, he woke up and saw in every man that you do not have to be trapped in those ridges and those lines and those patterns.
So how did Jesus pull himself out of that lower vibration of fear?
Okay.
He had a repetitive thing that he did. And that repeated thing that he did caused his vibration to go to this set point of who he truly was. So this is what I want to read to you. This is a little bit here. Hang in there with me, sweetie.
Okay.
I'll be thundering.
Okay, go
add
ahead.
something to it in a minute. This question was asked of Dr. David Hawkins. He says, what about, this person asks, what about major revelations or spiritual experiences that result in sudden major changes? And this is the way Dr. David Hawkins responded to him. It is by vibrational repetition that avalanches and other natural phenomena occur. Okay? Egoistic positions become weakened by virtue of seemingly minor and insignificant steps. For example, even just saying thank you wherever possible can result in becoming a more grateful and generous person who, by attraction, now effortlessly sends forth benefits previously that were not achievable by effort. And I'm going to kind of break that down for you in case it went over your head. He said, if you just say thank you, that's going to lead you into a vibration that will cause different attractions to come to you. Mm-hmm. And it brings you to that set point of who you truly are. So it doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything wild or then he says this: major changes also occur as a consequence of release from negative karmic obligations. That's when you do the inner work. Like, okay, if you've had an awakening experience or you're on this inner journey path, this journey, I should say, there are things that you may have had the glimpse of who you are. You may have come into that knowing, but after the knowing, there must be a doing, and then a being. Okay, so here, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly or not, but this is what I want to say to you. So there's still steps to be taken for those things you've jumped over because you've had the awakening experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're actually trying or describing the indescribable definition of patterns called, we could call it childhood memories. We could call it
yes,
past life experiences in our families and around our jobs that create habits or patterns. And these patterns leaves imprints.
They do.
In the subconscious or the programming. And in that, these marks seem to draw a lot of energy from our true identity that causes the mind to think that these sufferings are so real that you can't get out of them. They become traps. Indicators. And some we go back and forth and back and forth. And this is what is called the results of waking up. Because all of a sudden your discernment is there and you can see. But you know what? I was upstairs when I was asleep. There are thousands of people in the church and denominationalism that believe that if they get into a certain denomination or a certain sect of being a believer or waking up, they seem to think that if they don't wake up, they call waking up getting saved, born again, but that's only a door.
Well, yes. Let me go back because
go ahead.
Tuesday night we started I read some things out of the book called Kundalini.
Yeah.
And I don't want any of you to freak out because the word Kundalini it simply is the energy, the life force that's inside of each of us, all of us, that is sometimes felt. So we've felt and experience the Kundalini, if you've been through a Christian experience called being born again, you've experienced Kundalini. It was called it was called getting the Holy Ghost, being born again, or whatever you want to call it, but it was that. And so there's different words for the same experience. Right. So that book that I read out of, it talked about different stages. And I'll just read this for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Western mystic, let me back up here. This is again out of the book called Kundalini Rising. Okay, don't freak out over the word if you're a Christian. He says here, the broad stages of the mystical journey are much the same for initiates of various traditions, and the patterns of the saint are often reflected in the ventures of the humble seeker. Traditionally, the Western mystic path is divided into 3 primary stages. One of them is purgation. I don't even know what purgation means, but I'm going to read on so we'll find out. Illumination, and then ultimately union. And then the lady that wrote this, Underhill, she says, offers 5 principal stages in the mystic progression. She added to that, awakening, conversion as the first stage, and surrender or the dark night as the last stage. And then she says that comes right before the union. So it's awakening or conversion. So if you're a Christian and you've been converted and you've had an experience that completely changed you, radically changed you, that was an awakening experience. You may not have thought of it at that time. You may not have labeled it at that time, that word, but that's what it was. And then there is self-knowledge. There was knowledge that came from that because you went on a journey of trying to understand what you had been through, how you now deal with life, the way, since you got a new lens that you look through. And then there is illumination. There came revelation about all of those things that you experienced. It was a journey, no matter whether you were Christian, Buddhist, none of those, it's still the same journey. It's the same journey. And you experience the same things, even though you may have called it something different. And then there is the surrender. A surrender is the same as the dark night of the soul. And then finally union. So she said the Sufis call it yearning. The first stage is yearning. And I remember
never heard like that.
Yeah, yearning, because I remember just before we had our initial encounter with God, I'll say, we had such a yearning.
Yeah.
I remember that 1 week before.
That yearning is something we knew that was more to this than just the basic religiosity and all that other stuff.
But we didn't know anything.
We didn't know because we've conditioned from one of those ridges that there's nothing else but that.
We didn't know anything else.
But something was uncomfortable.
Yeah. But we went on, we started singing hymns that we knew.
Yeah, I remember that. Way back there.
Reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And just really being drawn like a magnet. It was a magnetism, drawn to wanting to have that experience with God, having an encounter. We had that initial stage of yearning. And I think most of us here listening to us today, you had that. That was your awakening. That was part of your awakening. Yeah. Now, Robert said this, and I see you guys' comments. I'm trying to stay on track with what I'm thinking about. Robert says the idea of love is not its expression. The expression of love is God in motion. Hone your skills in expressing love. Yes, that's why he said, then David Hawkins said, just a simple thank you sometimes will lead you into that gratitude that it raises your vibration. Just saying thank you. And so that's very, very important. Thank you, Norman. He says he loves me. Thank you. Thank you, sweet pie. Tell Gwen happy Mother's Day. Good morning, Diane. And yes, Kathy, she says, our hearts were yearning for love's presence. Yes, yes, yes. So it's the vibrational repetition is the way to stay in that. I don't want to say it like that. It's the way to bring yourself to your I am knowing, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus went and did what he always did repetitively, and it brought him to his I am vibration right in the midst of a crisis.
Here's a good metaphor. The waters, the lines that you see on the side of the rock in the Great Grand Canyon in the United States and China, different ones. When that water is drained down where the ocean was, it leaves those scars on the rock structure. What happens, in metaphorically speaking, the mystical side of our enlightenment, waking up, is that the water or the blood of memories, hurt, and pain is removed. But in actuality, metaphorically speaking, it leaves indicators where it used to be bad water or bad events left a scar. And these scars that take place in the walls of our soul and feeling area seem to attract our attention to look at that more than what really took place in us waking up. Waking up is the Christ self in this body mind situation wakes up to see the truth behind what really took place and what is taking place and has taken place with bad blood or water that left these hurts and experiences from childhood. That's why a lot of children come in this world. We come in with crying because it's painful. Painful water lines are left in the walls of the, metaphorically speaking, of the mind and the memory. Bad memories, bad feelings, and it's called flashbacks, or you could call it bad dream. It's a bad, in other words, the bad dream of being separated from God, our true identity, is what causes a lot of the church people to go into constantly talking about sinner, 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 um, uh, all the stuff you need to clean up, clean up, clean up. And be honest with you, and somebody said you can't, that part of the mind can't clean itself up. It will take some special agent, which is called spirit, true waking up of spirit, to actually remove, if not remove, causes you to rise up again in the same areas, but no more water lines are there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. I had this epiphany while you were talking, that when the water was at a certain level, what it did when it remained at that level, it it actually washed away anything that was not solid.
Yeah.
And so it's like
we call it water waves.
It washed away anything that was not solid. So that repetitive
moving of the water, vibration,
moved everything that was not solid.
Of bad taste, bad mood swings. That's another way of saying mood swings. We see people say they're so moody. What you're looking at is the result of the water lines that was left.
Yeah. So I wish, now I'm going to say this, I wish every last one of us who have had this awakening experience, that we were constantly at that vibration. But for most of us, that has not been the case. We have had this vacillation up and down. Just like the heart monitor goes up and down. We've had that, yes, John Greason, to and fro. And so in that, we felt like we were failing at living as that being.
I didn't know, are you talking that religion and even Christology patterns can also create new or mixed water lines in those places, and the attention awareness gets trapped. And even in being a Christian of patterns and habits.
And most of us who came through the Christian path, we spent a lot of time trying to be good.
I mean, this is all.
And so now we may not be at that. We may not have that same mode, but we now are trying to be loving.
We always hear this saying in church, old things pass away, old things become new. But yet, after an emotional experience of what we call shouting, moving, and all that in church with an emotion, and then there's some people don't shout. They still, everybody have these ridges in them. But then all of a sudden we find out, why am I not satisfied? Why am I not fulfilled? And that's because those water lines on the side of some experience are the repercussions of heights, fear of being choked, bad dreams. All of these are in reference to what we're talking about, that is in every wall.
And those things can't be jumped over.
No.
Your awakening experience will initially make you feel like you jumped over that, but you haven't jumped over that, because at some point you've got to go back and embody that
we call it the sting of death. The sting of death is those sores. It leads. We're talking about something now that's graphic, but it is so there, what we're saying. And when you see it.
Now let me read this.
Go ahead.
If this Dr. David Hawkins is not easy reading, so if he uses words that go over your head, don't worry about it. He says, by incorporation and practice, the new becomes habitual.
Yeah.
And it becomes the way one is.
Okay.
Not one's trying to be, but the way one is. And then he said, it has been described that even on only a single, very simple spiritual principle to live by is sufficient to making major progress. One thing that you do repetitively can cause you to progress in your inner journey. Okay, this is what he says, such as to be kind to all of life. Robert is saying to express that unconditional love. And sometimes we know to do that, but to actually do it, we have other things like you're talking about that are back in the background still running.
Speed bumps, we call
that prevent us from doing it. So he says, like being kind to all of life, or learning to forgive no matter what, to be of goodwill to all that exists. Like some people don't even want to kill an ant, and sometimes I feel that way. To take a sentence or two from your favorite psalm or your favorite scripture, or read one paragraph of the book that gave you some insight and inspired you, okay, and to reflect on it for days and weeks or months. So these are repetitive vibrational.
Reflection is a good word. Yeah,
this
reflection.
Is vibrational repetitive that we do. When that happens, it causes us to progress.
Another word for reflection is, I remember when. You know, I can think back. I can feel the memories of this when I was abused or raped, or hey, I can. And why am I still remembering that? That is the big story of this dimension that initiates everybody into those water lines to believe that they are there. And then the next thing we'll get into is we'll start something from the conditioning to begin to blame it on Satan. It's like somebody looking at our past president and say, if it wasn't for Biden, Biden did this, Biden did that. These are the ridges of the results of the water line, that is lies that has been placed in there through those lines to believe that we are still those patterns on the wall.
Yes.
And that's what causes the blame, putting blame on mama, putting blame because generational curses and all that stuff.
There are times we still believe in the me that's been waking up, that was constructed from
waking
all
up
of our life experience
causes you to look at them without the sting anymore and moving on, and you say it's kind of like the Spirit of God identity forgives those memories automatically waking up.
I like what Mama Blue, hey Mama Blue, and happy Mother's Day to you. She said, there is no spiritual bypassing on the awakening journey. Thank you, sweetheart.
Boy, she's coming in there this morning.
Go on and preach, Mama. Go on and preach.
Come on in there, girl.
I'm glad you're on here with us today. And so here's not something else that Dr. David Hawkins says. And remember, he's not easy reading. So if it goes over your head, big words, don't worry about it. That is the most effective way to begin. A single tool applied consistently and rigorously is more effective than reading all the books and having sporadic episodes of enthusiasm.
Okay.
So like I said about you, your one vibrational repetitive thing that you do is going in that closet and speaking in your heavenly language.
Yeah.
And it's not to get anything.
That's the change.
Yeah.
I used to think going in there was going in there telling God about my scars, about the ridges on the side of the cliffs and the mountains, the painful experiences, and over again, forgive me for this, forgive me for that. I didn't know that waking up causes you to no longer approach that closet or anything as a pattern to kind of like a smoke string, to use that as an excuse to talk about the past and to talk about the memories. Well, all of those things are ridges.
I say this about you because I know this about you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't have halo or wings, but you are consistent.
I don't have no halo and wings. I do have a feather or something.
You might have little bitty ones, but anyway, you have been, and I've been married to you for 55 years.
Really?
I've known you for 57 years.
Really? Ooh.
But you have been consistent from day one. Day one. That has been your set point. And because of that, it's like you pull a string on a sweater.
Yeah.
You keep pulling that string, eventually that sweater gonna unravel.
You're gonna pull the main thread.
So that vibration, going back into that closet repetitively and doing that, whether it was for the right motive or not, you just continued to practice it. And it has raveled and unraveled a lot of the hurt and stuff that you had in your past.
Now,
maybe not everything, but it's done its work.
These classes, and that's all over the universe right now and on Earth, are nothing but pointers. We're saying it's a discernment experience in waking up with these classes. Now you know that the real you is the life that you have always been. Oh God, the real you is that part that wakes up and that you finally see and understand you are past those ridges on the waterlines of the cliff and the rocks. You now can look at them and with an eye of eternal forgiveness.
Oh, you just gave me a visual of that. The water was at that level, and when it receded to the next level, it shows you where the work had been done to carve out everything that was not stable.
Now, waking up to the Christ identity actually is the only thing. Now, we can talk about it here, but the event has to be something that takes place from the mystical side of your true identity. It may not erase them, but it does cause you to rise up with new way of looking at them.
Yes, your lens changes.
Thank you.
The lens you look through changes.
Your sight, that's where discernment comes in. But here's the thing about it. we used to call all those ridges demons.
Yeah.
Now we call it the ego.
Because what we were familiar with doing was placing the blame on something else.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of really dealing with it and really looking at it, facing the shadow part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that we don't like, the part of ourselves that we really know in that it may be evil.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at it squarely in the face and then realize that that is not who we are. But you don't come to that realization without the beating of that water and that acid grace, I'll call it acid grace, beating on that thing until it weakens. Here's
a good one. We look on television and in books, and we see the Grand Canyons and the water ridges and these places. Somebody say, we didn't know what they were. Somebody would say, you see those lines on the side of the mountain and the brick where the water used to be? And you say, what? And they'll say, the ocean, there used to be an ocean here, but it receded after many evolutions of the earth changes. Changes. What happens?
Transformation.
Come here. Changes took place that took us away from our true identity.
And so now acid grace is transforming us.
Okay.
Okay.
But now here we go. We never would have thought, never would have seen the definition of those water lines unless somebody pointed them out to us.
Right.
And when they pointed them out to the church points it out, but it never can show how to get beyond those lines and see how to not identify with those lines or those places on the side. And you stand there looking and say, you mean to tell me water used to be that high? You mean to tell me water cut those ridges? You're waking up now.
And it was a very soft process.
Yes.
But it was repetitive.
My God, this thing.
It was repetitive.
Yes.
And so I love what Robert's saying too. He says, expressing unconditional love is what God is always doing. Join the dance. Everything else is revealed later. Jesus healing folks and miracles, because he loves authentically. Yes. And then he mentions this. Every tool leaves a mark. Yes. Discover where you are marked with love. Yes. And Mother Catherine says, we look from the lens of our innocence. Yes. It brings you back to the innocence.
Yeah.
It brings you back to the
totally free.
The repetitive, or I should say the using your will to say thank you, using your will to forgive, using your will to practice kindness. When you do that, you have what is called a one-pointedness mind. And so your mind stays single. And the Bible calls it a single eye.
Yeah. You said something yesterday at the celebration at the table. It's about to slip, but you said, oh, shucks. See, there it goes.
I said, oh, shucks.
Oh, Lordy. I saw a description of what you're talking about at the table. You were talking about something that was a pattern that was left in you or in us. And these patterns seem to be so real that we think that those patterns on the side of that water, that brick, is us. I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway.
Well, maybe it'll come back. Now, mind you, we're not talking about. You may not go in a closet like my husband and pray for hours. You may pray in tongues. You may not sit and meditate for an hour every day. You may not pick a scripture and read it every day, but you might have to put forth your will just to say thank you. Practicing kindness, practicing forgiveness, even when your mind says they don't deserve to be forgiven. Even that's practice.
Yeah.
So the practice is beneficial. The practice leads you into the progression of embodiment of that you are.
What happens to the experience of the light of the true self? Those and light is thrown on those things with a different way, and we said it again, of seeing seeing, Seeing, and looking at this, not in self pity, but you find out, wait a minute, that stuff is not me. I know now what salvation really is.
Yes, yes.
It's not getting things better. It's not adding something to me. It's not taking away something. But it seemed like we something was lost, and now we say old things are past, and behold, all things become new.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yet we still have these tied up and down.
So now, and I hope we're making sense to you guys. But
anyway, I hope so. I want to.
So if I just put my hand up here. If I close this hand and I make a fist.
Yeah.
You see a fist, but in order to see a hand, the fist has to open. When it's a fist, if you never saw an open hand, you would think there is no hand. You just say there's a fist. It's like these things that we're talking about, these practices don't cause you to become anything because you already are. But the revealing or the realization of realizing that you are takes place as those practices beating on that thing, constantly beating on that thing, begins to wear away that you're not. And then what is revealed is what you are.
Okay.
So it's not a becoming that. It's not. It's
I see.
The water didn't make the mountain.
Right.
It didn't make the mountain. The mountain always was.
It was there, but it was hid.
Yeah. So Dr. Hawkins says it like this: it's not a process of change, but of evolutionary emergence. In other words, it emerges out of the evolution that takes place as that practice beats on that is not what you are. And he uses an example of a larvae, like a caterpillar. It does not change into a butterfly, but instead it becomes the fulfillment of its potential.
Now, the fullness of Christ is not the little bitty habits we use as indication that we were taught, something was taught. The fullness of Christ is not an emotional feeling. The fullness of Christ is not getting more of and losing something that was there that we don't do anymore. I found out that the fullness of Christ is being able to see, know, and be our true identity. And that's not saying, like people say, I'm just going to be me. How can you be me when there's been a big lie in your mind or your feeling that told you that being me is putting on makeup or not wearing makeup or putting on a certain suit or not wearing certain clothes anymore? That's not changing. Real change takes place in a mystical side of your identity. I would say mystery, those things that have gotten out of range of unassisted natural comprehension that can only be discerned by divine revelation and insight at such a time as your eternal spirit self. Hey, look, I didn't know that the eternal self was me or you. And I found out that in this waking up, we are all the same in oneness. Even the circle 0 and the number letter 1 is removed. My God, I'm getting one of these popping sensations going through my legs and things. Now I realize that that's fine. That comes with when you hit something that's right. It rings a bell, but we can't stop there at the bell. We can't. We go in a service station, but we don't stay there trying to make another trip.
Well, see now, you said something there because a lot of times we we look for those things that bring us to a place like even when you listen to our talks and we look at other videos and things like that, what we're seeking is that's that yearning again. That's that yearning again to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to hear this information. I want to hear it. And so at some point, that one that's seeking to hear it, I don't know what happens to it, but it may disappear. May disappear. Let me read this. Go ahead, because we're gonna get off on something else, but I don't. All right. For the committed mystic of the traditional path, that's Christianity, this period of purgation is often a time of deep introspection, of examination of the soul to root out all its imperfections and weaknesses. Sometimes the ascetics or seekers resort to rites of mortification, severe regimens of fasting and prayer to bring the soul into a state of perfection. This is what we think is happening when we do that. But for the modern aspirant, it's often psychological issues or lifestyle practices that call for attention. Now is the time to seek meaningful psychological help for all the lingering wounds. This is what you're talking about. All the lingering wounds of childhood or society imposed traumas, to deal with what has been repressed in order to survive in an unkind world. Also, many now realize that the diet needs adjustment. That harmful habits of excess of various kinds, such as addictions, unresolved conflicts, and other destructive patterns of behavior, all need to be confronted. So we can't skip that. You can't skip it. Even if you know the spiritual language, you know it back and forth, inside and out. Even if you practice in love, even if you practice in kindness, you can't skip the things that happen that you repressed. You can't skip it.
Now we go to what we used to talk about and this is the memory of the black box in trains, airplanes, that when certain incidents take place, such as injuries to the plane crashing or something like that, there's a box that records the actual event that led up to the accident. Now we're finding out that this black box carries with it the memories, the associations, even the anniversaries of events that took place, and it's called psychological disturbances from these events. But what waking up does, my God, better than this stuff is stronger than kryptonite, Superman's kryptonite. I'm telling you, the super self is the Christ self that causes awareness, consciousness to rise up above these water lines. What you're reading about there is just words that clarify. What we're trying to do is clarify what really real life freedom is. Some people think that eternal life don't start until after your body die and you leave and go to heaven. I found out, oh my God, I feel my preaching coming up. I found out, yeah. You know, and I know, and they know, and all that. I feel that. I sense it. It's emotional. That's what causes preachers in the pulpit to get over into this rhyming words and saying things with emotion. But by and by, when the morning comes, that's the song. When all of that, Pastor Norman, you know about it, and all the rest of it, when the service is over, you say, man, he really preached. All he did was get into the emotions of the ridges on the side and use them as patterns, as everybody do, to say, I don't do that no more. I remember when we was little upstairs and where we lived and raised, everybody was in the kitchen drinking moonshine, And somebody came up with the idea that Clifton and my oldest brother said, we're going to take a little glass of this in there to them. Now, we're children. We don't drink, but you didn't go in the kitchen where the old folks were, because all they were doing was talking about these water ridges and drinking moonshine. So they brought something to us, and all we had was like a teaspoonful of it. And when we drank it, me and my brother started falling on the chair and walking around, acting like drunk folks. And that wasn't enough water there, or enough moonshine in that glass to make a fly drunk. But because we heard and was subjected to that environment, now here comes the Rose of Sharon. There's a new smell that comes about. Now I can go in I used to drink it when I first met, drinking constantly to where I could smell it coming out my skin and stink. Wake up in the morning at my uncle's house, and because of the smell of alcohol in I added to it, and the whole room was smelling like it. That was a past experience of the week or the day before I had drunk that stuff, and it smelled. Now the smell of a new fragrance of enlightenment is inside inner formation, inward formation, information, inward forming, the mystical side of waking up. I got collections of moonshines and all kinds of stuff in my cabinet in the kitchen. I can look at it now because the sting of it or the want of it is not like it used to be. I don't have to have it now.
That's what I was about to say. It's not that you're trying not to drink it.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that you're trying to exercise your will because you feel like it's wrong to drink, but you don't want it.
Yeah.
The want to is gone. And so a person really isn't free until the want to is gone.
Yeah.
And the want to won't happen by exercising your willpower.
Right.
So we're not talking about trying to suppress all the habits and things like that, but don't hide behind your freedom.
Yeah.
To act as if they're okay.
It's almost like you say.
It's okay to have these addictions, and don't act like it's okay to have these issues. It's not okay because that's not freedom.
Right.
That's not free from an ego. That's free as an ego.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a difference. Okay. There's a difference, and I'm not saying you're wrong for anything that you consider wrong or that you're doing or not doing. I'm saying that until the want to has actually happened, if that want to is gone, that's freedom.
Yeah.
The want to.
Now here's the thing. You ever been riding along and all of a sudden a song come up, and when it comes up, it's a pattern. You hear music over and over again. That certain song words. I'm more aware of it now than I ever was, and I'm looking at, and we'll say, I keep hearing this song on the inside over and over. And I just saw it and heard it on television, on the music, playing the guitar and all that. And I hear it over. And I used to think that was me doing that. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Now, I have to say this, that I know that everybody listening to us may not see this the way we're saying it today. May not catch it right away. Yeah. Well, not necessarily catch it. They may not see it the way we see it.
Yeah.
They may have gone through these phases.
Yeah.
They may not be vacillating up and down anymore. But for us, we are dealing with that.
Yeah.
And if you, what did the Bible say? Follow me as I follow Christ, because we are intentional about embodying this truth and really being that, not just doing it, not just trying to do it, not just practicing, even though we do practice, not saying loving, being loving, acting loving without being loving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The programs that we talk about.
Yes,
that's Robert. All the rest of them talking about.
And I know some of you. I know if there are some of you who are dealing with issues.
Yeah.
And I guess we're like a halfway house.
Oh God.
We're like a halfway house. We're in this journey with you. And I can't say I've finalized it. I know I'm awake, but there are still things that are there that I intentionally want to be different.
I hear a song of mine that we are in this thing together, something like that.
Are. We really are.
And that's the my heart's desire, heart. And when I say heart, when I saw Jesus' heart for real, I saw it. It was the broken heart, but at the same time, it still existed as a main mechanism of communication. I didn't know that the heart has a memory, and the heart has a bad memory and a good memory. But the main memory of the heart is coming to awareness. That's the heart life. The heart present brings you back to your original God. I don't want to use the word God. Okay, we overuse that sometimes. Original identity of no dying, no born, no birth, but have always been love. We've always been peace. We always have been in our true identity. Remember when Shirley was born, you went to the hospital with your sister. When she came out, she wasn't crying or nothing. They had to make her cry.
They did a C-section.
Yeah.
And she was so peaceful.
Yeah.
The baby Shelley would not cry.
That's right.
And she was so peaceful, in fact, that she wouldn't breathe. She wouldn't breathe. She was blue.
Yeah.
And they had to try to wake her up.
Yeah.
And they did all of the normal things that they do to babies, and she would not wake up. She didn't say nothing. And they finally stuck her heel with a pin.
Wow.
That's how they woke her up.
Isn't that something? Good gracious.
Pain woke her up.
Yeah. That's pain and suffering.
Pain woke her up.
Is one of those ridges on the waterline.
Yeah. So pain is necessary.
But we found out waking up is a potential to allow to see those things as stepping stones.
I see a light blinking. That light bulb must be going.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So pain woke her up.
Yeah.
That means that pain is beneficial.
Right.
And some of the things that we're experiencing that's painful is acid grace working on us to bring the transformation. I won't say change, but the fullness of your potential as this God being that you are.
It seems like we've been on it a long time. Maybe
we went over about 8 minutes.
Yeah. But here we go.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm saying you got to get rid of all these things you're doing wrong. That's not what I'm saying.
You tried that and didn't work.
I'm not saying
we
that.
Tried that. We don't try everything.
I'm not saying that because there's absolutely no judgment here. There's no judgment from God toward you. There is no judgment, no self-judgment.
Some people think that when you get old, some of these things will leave. And you almost like, I wish I'd been like this when I was younger. No, you had to go through this and come out on the other side. Whether old or young, age is just a game. Now you understand that the real you, like somebody said here, you are the realization of what woke up. What woke up was the real you.
I love what Mama Catherine said. She says, we don't want it anymore because we realize we are it. Yes.
We are the real self. Now, we're going to stop here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can.
I'm going to put in a request in these conditioned areas of the waterline that we talked about. I have examinations coming up where I need to have certain exams from the medical department at the hospital and places to where I can, we need financial help in this area. And anything extra that you guys can send to us to help us with that, it's got to be done to find out certain pieces of information on those water lines as to why things are going the way it is. And it's up to about $400 or $500 copay for my insurance to have that examination if I desire to do it. I'm asking for extra help in these areas. I know things may be a little bit in the past memory financially, but I'm asking you guys if it's any way possible to send us special input of financial help for these things to be done or taking place. That's it right there. But thank you, Miss Leslie. I think about you over the years. A lot of you have sent finances in the mail to help us and in the cash apps. We thank you so much for helping us. And it's because of the Christ in you. And I'm not using this as a water a clickbait. We talked about that to try to manipulate or get you to do this, but we're not misusing funds. Okay, we are at a point in our life where everything counts, and I'm sure some of you the same way. If you can assist us in these areas, like you've always done, and you've done a wonderful, wonderful love job in supplying us with this finances. Thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in to us. And you kind of, I might say, in enlightenment, you kind of make our day. You really fulfill a lot of things in us in these classes, just knowing that you're there, just knowing that you are listening. And some are listening to us now that we don't see your name come up. And I talked to a lot of people and they say they're going to tune in. You don't have to come online to show it, but just the idea of knowing that we have people just like you guys online that we see that are listening to us that can still help us. Thank you so much for the years and the time. I think we got a library of classes in certain places on the machine, the computer.
On YouTube. Yeah.
On YouTube.
Well, Facebook takes your
and
videos,
you see,
Facebook takes your videos down after a certain period of time. But YouTube has all of our
that must be you say a long time ago, that must be a heap of them.
It is a heap of them.
A heap of
because we started doing this back during the pandemic.
Yeah. We got a heap of a heap of.
And again, some of you may have reach that final stage, if there's such a thing as reaching that final stage where you absolutely are at peace and in bliss. But for those of you who are still in the halfway, we're the halfway house.
Yeah, you guys are helping us. Okay,
we're the halfway house. Okay.
Thank you for the heart of Christ in all of you. I know you. I see you. I recognize you. Your expressions are the Christ heart. And this Christ heart does not, what's so amazing about it, don't come and go.
Yeah. I long for the day, you're talking about yearning, I long for the day that you and I won't have to ask for any money at all.
That's true. We always say that when we was in the brick and mortar, the Cornerstone building, we said that. We never wanted to, we wanted to get to play, we didn't have to have a salary.
Yeah.
But you guys know all about that. Some of you that listening to us, you know all about that. I missed that part of the people. There's a part of me that missed the part of the people, the memories. That's one of those water ridges. But I'm standing.
That's one of those places the water's beating on. Huh?
Yeah. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you over and over again. I find myself in my quiet time thanking God for the times of life, that the conditionings that we went through that brought us to you. These experiences of the water ridges that we look at was indicators and roadmaps that brought us to you through the eternal Spirit.
And let me say this too, Pastor, because a lot of times we think, I used to think this way, that when I hear a message, I'll call it a message, or a teaching or whatever, I used to think it was just coincidental.
Yeah.
But in actuality, it is not two separate people that's speaking to you, because there is only one here, one there.
But the illusion is,
you, in essence, are speaking to yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Through two different forms. So you brought this message to yourself.
I heard somebody say, passing them in the store, say, be blessed. I didn't know that when they said be blessed, that was the Christ self in them blessing the Christ self inside of this body. And the Christ self was telling Christ to be blessed back and forth.
Because only Christ can bless.
That's right. Oh, God. And that means multiply only the Christ awareness, increase the potential to see the Christ in everything. God, I feel like I want to
preach again.
Ooh, Lord, I feel that. Lord,
we will be back on Tuesday, young people. We will be back in live and in color. Lord willing, nothing happens. We'll be right here, and hopefully bringing us some more. But see, when we do these sessions, we really are teaching ourselves. The higher self is teaching us as we're talking.
From the higher self to the higher self.
Yeah.
My God, this is real stuff.
Because these things that we say, again, we don't collaborate.
That's right. No, we don't.
We don't discuss what we're going to talk about. And we know that it's just hot off the press.
That's right.
It's hot off the press.
Thank you. I bless the Christ, and the Christ receives the blessing from you. Amen.
Have a happy Mother's Day.
Happy day. Happy day to you until we meet again.
Happy trails to
Happy
you.
trail. Happy day. I call it happy day. Huh?
Happy trail. I'm hoarse a little bit.
Yeah, you in love. That love around your heart is coming to me, baby.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, oh, it is. She said, oh, it. She said, oh, it is. Okay.
All right. And as John Greason said, hit the like button, the love button, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.